Good morning everyone. I am Glacier Aberances, the first reporter of Group 6. Uh, the Group 6 topic is all about the gender and society human ecological approach. Today class, I will be discussing about lesson 21, understanding the sexual harassment. Today I will be discussing about the three learning objectives. First, understand fully and various theological perspective on sexual harassment. The second one is distinguish the theological perspectives on sexual harassment from each other. The third one is understanding the law of the Philippines on sexual harassment in the academy and in the workplace. So, the definition of terms. Sexual harassment is an act or series of acts involving unwelcome sexual advance require or demand of sexual behavior or sexual nature committed by the government employee or official in work related training, education, related environment. What is ILO? International Labor Organization. Sexual harassment. An act of series of an act involving unwelcome sexual advance, request, or demand for a sexual favor or other verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature committed by the government employee or official in a work-related training or education-related environment. Harassment. As a sexual harassment or recognized as a form of discrimination of on grounds of sex and are contrary to be principle equal treatment between men and women. The Philippines Republic Act number 7877 or the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. The theoretical perspective of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment cannot be understood from the perspective or single theory, but it is always a combination of different perspectives. Previous researchers have looked at sexual harassment using a number of frameworks including organizational approach, feminist theory, role theory, the attribution models, and sexual harassment. However, all of the models share common basic perception and can be labeled of social cultural models of sexual harassment. Seth and Braver, 1999. However, there have been 5 widely accepted theories or sexual harassment that attempt to explain the phenomenon from different angles or perspectives to wit.
There are 5 theoretical perspectives of sexual harassment. First is natural or biological theory. According to this model, men have stronger sex drives and are therefore biologically motivated to engage of sexual pursuit to women. Thus, the harassing behavior is not meant to be offensive or discriminatory. So, meaning, for men, para nila natural na siya, pero they don't think it is offensive or that's sexual harassment. For men, because na sila stronger sex drive or stronger sex appeal like that, para nila, if they engage to women, then para nila, the way they engage to that person or to that woman is not offensive. But for us women, we might feel offensive to what they would say. may nga sa natural na magud na, pero para nato offensive na nalang giingon, pero para nila dili na natural na laki sila. Dali ra kayo ingon sa mga laki na wala ra manggod to, joke ra manggod to, and don't consider the feelings of women. Isa pa nga gumit kay something like that, kulang ma-hurt could be ka na, diba? Like, i-compare pa jud ka. Natural naman good na sa mga lalaki. Duh, we have feelings too. The second one is sex role spillover theory. This theory is based on the proposition of irrelevant gender-based role expectations that individuals bring to the workplace in guiding their intentions with women. Men hold role perceptions of women based on their traditional role in culture. We should know that sexual harassment is not only physically done, but it can also be verbally done. But I will not tackle to that topic more because someone will explain that later. So, diba, as a girl, ang expected role nato is just to stay sa balay. But because nag-evolve ang generation, girls now can work even outside the house. But before, it's a tradition na dapat girls na sa balay. So, if ang girl mag-work sa workplace sa man, instead na i-judge siya on how she do her work, i-judge siya because she's a girl. Like, di naman ni kaya. You're a girl, you can't do that. There are really men who think like that. But, that all happens in the past. Right now, right now, girls can work. Girls can study. Girls can do whatever they want. Third is organizational theory. This theory proposes that sexual harassment results from opportunities presented by power and authority, relations with derived from hierarchical structures organization. So mostly, kanina, sexual harassment mostly happens if, example, you engage to people that has more authority or more power than you. For example, in an institution, like if example I'm a student, then you're the teacher. Because I need something from you, you take for granted the thing that I want from you. Not like kanang grade ba? Imong gi-take for granted na siya. Then imong gi-take for granted imong power, imong authority, yung kang have sex with me in order to have good grades. Then it's not right. You're using your power and authority to do those kind of harassment to that student. The fourth one is social-cultural theory. Social-cultural theories examines the wider social and political context in which sexual harassment is created and occurs. According to this perspective, sexual harassment is a logical consequence of the gender inequality and sexism that already exists in the society, which is true. Still, at this era or at this modern age, we can still see sexual gender inequality. Not maybe in works, but little details, but still they are like that. Like, bayi man ka, dapat inanira imo, laki ko, kanya kong buhaton, muna, bayi ka, muna. Bayi man ka, laki man ko, mas kusgan man ko. Mga na ba? Gender inequality. Lastly, feminist theory. According to the feminist perspective, sexual harassment is linked to the sexist male ideology of male dominance and male superiority in the society. Therefore, feminist theories view sexual harassment as the product of gender system maintained by a dominant normative form of masculinity, meaning men see girls or women as inferior being and they see themselves as superior being. Like, ayaw rana kay dili mo na kaya, bayi rabia ka. Ina na gani mga sinultian, bayi manggug ka, ngano kaya din na nimo. Ana gani. They tend to use that term na bayi manggug ka. Bayi manggug ka. Hina manggug ka, dili nimo ni kaya kay bayi manggug ka. That is feminist theory. Then they tend to use that against us because they're superior and they think that we are inferior. They think dili na to kaya mo laban nila. That's why there are times that rape happens or bullying happens. Mga na stuffs. Relevance of sexual harassment theories. As interpretation of this theoretical perspective reveals that both biologically as well as socioculturally men happen to have occupied a dominant position over women in societies, of which workplaces are only a part. Therefore, maybe women can't be a teacher or can't be a businesswoman because they are women, nara sila sa balay, na ng duty as a woman to serve their husbands, their children. But as today's modern age, women can do whatever they want. Next is considerable data have been accumulated confirming that harassment is widespread in both public and private sectors that has significant consequence for the employee's health and psychological well-being. So meaning sexual harassment is not only happening in private sectors but also in public sectors. Then because of sexual harassment, magkuan ganing maapektuhan jud ang women in its health and psychological well-being because that's traumatizing if you be harassed or gigamit ka just because you want something from them or lantaw nila nimo inferior being ka or dili nimo kaya sila labanan because you're weak. Ano na gani, then mabuang ka na uban nga because of that they become crazy. Therefore, the vulnerability of women as a weaker sex has traveled towards workplace and academe, where it is considered natural and normal for men to be responding sexually towards women as colleagues, subordinates, and superiors. For men, like, sexually, like, lami kayo ka. Diba, men? You joke naman good na. But what they're saying is really wrong. Why would you say that? Ngano ka musultian na nimo? Ngano ka musultian na sa babayi? Like, makaingon ng babae na, are you fantasizing me like that? As a person, kay para nila magod sa mamen, dali rata mo give in pag mga inana mga putanga. And they think natural na may nga, kay kang bayana, and they don't know that is sexual harassment already. If ma-feel na ganin ninyo na you are uncomfortable towards what the men say, that is sexual harassment.
So good day. What are we going to talk about now is the Philippine laws of sexual harassment. So like the other countries, Philippines has also laws that protects us from sexual harassment. So this law is called the Republic Act number 7877 or the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. So what is this act? This act specified the work-related or employment environmental sexual harassment. So this act focuses in work or school or employment or training session. So To clarify, I will read the definition. The sexual favor is made as a condition in the hiring or in the employment, re-employment, or continued employment of the said individual, or in granting the said individual favorable compensation or terms. So what is these compensations, terms, conditions, promotions, or privileges? So, or the refusal to grant sexual favor results in limiting, segregating, or classifying the employee, which in a way would discriminate, deprive, or diminish the employment opportunities, otherwise adversely affect the employee. So this means that when you are sexually harassed when a condition is being made para sa sexual intercourse. So abi imuhang employer man nga we mag-sexual intercourse ta, himuon ti ka, i-promote ti ka, or hatagan ti kag environment nga dili kayo lisod ang trabaho, or kung dili ka mosugot ani nga akong terms, papahawaon ti ka, or ilimit na ko imong trabaho para gamay kag sweldo para di ka mo promote, or initan ti ka. So that is sexual harassment. Paghangyuon ka nga naay kondisyon tungod sa trabaho, or hangyoon ka na di ka masugot na mauna noon na hadluko na noon ka. It is sexual harassment and we are protected in that in RA 7877. Next, the above acts would impair the employee's right or privileges under the existing labor laws. So, naaman tay labor law nga gana protect pod sa employment na kung ang right nato na violate na gani tungod ana sa tong refusal or sa tong pagdawat ana nga or pagdawat ana nga kanang kondisyon, that means under Japon na siya or pwede Japon na siya makasuhan ani nga act. The above act would result in an intimidating or offensive environment for the employee. So kung ma-intimidate na ka, mahadlok na ka tungod kay gi-refuse nimo or tungod kay gihadlok po kaniya kay ning sugot ka na ihadlok ko na bi kaning isulti ana, sexual harassment siya po na. Then, on the other hand, in an education, so kato ganina sa kumpanya to, this will be in the education or school areas or training environments. So, asam na mahulog ang training environment? So, training means coaching. So, pwede siya sa mga mag-tutor, mag-coach, or mga athlete, kay coaching man na siya. So, sexual harassment is committed, number 1, against one who is under the care, custody, or supervision of the offender. So, naay sexual harassment mahitabo kung under ka sa nag-sexual harass nimo. Kung employer nimo siya, supervisor abi nimo siya, or head nimo siya, sexually harassment na. Number 2, against one whose education, training, apprenticeship, or tutorship is entrusted to the offender. So, understandable. So, number 3, when the sexual favor is made a condition to the giving of a passing grade, or granting an honors and scholarship, or the payment of stipend allowance, or the benefits, privileges, or considerations rather, or when the sexual advances result in an intimidating or offensive environment. So, kung abi ang employer nimo or imong teacher, sensei nimo maingon nga, mag-sexual intercourse, then hatagan ti kag passing grade, or i-honor ti ka, or musugot ra ko nga, ihatag ko na nimo nga scholarship, nako ihatag nimo scholarship, basta mag-sexual intercourse ta, or biskan dili intercourse, basta sexual nga acts, mahulog ni siya ani nga act. So, kini nga Sexual Harassment Act or Republic Act 78700, balik na to, if I'm correct. Basta ani under nga act, mahulog ni siya ani under nga act if kanang naay kondisyon, hatagan kag passing grade or anything. Then, next is the sexual harassment on the civil service. So, sexual harassment on the civil service is punishable by Civil Service Commission number 010940 also known as Administrative Disciplinary Rules on Sexual Harassment Cases. So here, the sexual harassment can be committed at the following places. So, mga lugar nga gina-sexual harass ka. So, number 1, in the premises of the workplace or the office or the school or the training institution. So, kung naa ka sa sulod sa imong opisina, naa ka sa sulod sa imong opisina, sa imong workplace, sa imong school, or dira sa inyong training ground na gina-sexual harass ka, mahulog ni siya ani nga Commission number 010940. Number 2, in any place where parties were found as a result of work or education or training responsibilities or relations. So, biskan asa pod gawa sa imong opisina or sa school nga nag-result siya pon sa work. So, ginakuan ka niya, sexual harass ka, pero ang gina-condition siya po niya, about siya po sa trabaho, taganti ka ani, promote ka ani, taganti ka dakong grado, kung inana Japon, under Japon ani, makasuhan Japon siya. Number 3, at work, education, or training-related social functions, while official business outside the office, or school or training institution during work, or school or training-related travel. Number 5, at official conferences. For A, symposia or training sessions. So, diri sa ta, 3 to 5. So, pwede siya ma-sexual harass biskan wala ka sa workplace, wala ka inside the premises of the workplace, pero trabaho Japon ninyong giadto. For example, business trip or school trip. So, sexually harass gay kasi mong boss nga naa kay school trip or business trip, ma-under Japon siya or makasuhan Japon siya ani nga batas. Then last is through telephone, cellular phone, fax machine, or electronic mails. So kini biskan wala mo nagkita na dayon ginabastos kaniya or ginakuan Japon kisa sexually harass Japon ka, through phones o cellular phone, makasuhan Japon siya ani nga batas. So that's all. See you at the lesson 2. It will be discussed by my other classmates.
Lesson 22, Women Issues and Development. So first, let us define these terms. Development is the progress in which someone or something grows or changes. So in this lesson, we will track the development on how is the approach about issues of women. Women in Development approach of development project that emerged in 1960s calling for treatment of women issues in development project. GAD, Gender and Development, developed in 1980s, stepped away both WID and WED, and was founded in 1994. Gender and Development. Gender and Development looks at the impact of development on both women and men. It seeks to ensure that both women and men participate in and benefit equally from the development. Women in Development, or WID. By the 1970s, it became clear that women were being left out of development. They were not benefiting significantly from it, and in some instances, their existing status and position in society were actually worsened by development. So at this moment, there were development in society, but that does not include the women. They were not benefiting from the development that is happening in society, and in the worst case, women's existence were rejected. The Women in Development approach issue the exclusion of women from development program and approaches. WID saw women as a group that lacks opportunity to participate in development. In Zambia, UNIP. This was formed during this time. The Women League commenced to rule political parties. UNIP additionally called the United Nations Independence Party. It was formed in October 1959 by Manza Chona, a militant nationalist. The United National Independence Party is the only legal political party. In response to mounting pressures in the country, the charter was modified in 1991 to allow the reintroduction of the multi-party system, declare Decade of Women one of the fundamental success, and to establish of women in development structures and machineries. The 1975 to 1985, the United Nations declared the Decade of Women. One of the fundamental successes of the decade turned into establishment of women in development structures machineries.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. So today I will be discussing about WAD, or what we call Women and Development. Okay, as a result of criticism of WAD approach arose in the latter part of 1970s, adopting a Marxist feminist approach. The main agreement of WAD was that women had been always part of development processes. WAD asserted that women have always been important to economic actors. And when we say WAD, it focuses in particular at the relation between patriarchy and capitalism. The wider perspective states that women had constantly participated and contributed in the direction of financial improvement, regardless of the public of non-public shippers. The fundamental attention of WAD is that interaction among women and development procedures, rather than the basic terms of strategies to combine women into development. WAD noticed both males and females are no longer benefiting from global economic structure because of these advantages due to the magnificence and the way wealth is distributed. Was argued that the integration of women in development simply has made their inequality worse. Global inequalities changed into main issue dealing with poor nation and residents this country that according to WAD. Okay, for the continuation of the report, let's talk about GAD, or what we call gender and development. GAD, or what we call gender and development. GAD focuses on both men and women and their impact on development, and is specialized in social or gender relations. For example, division of labor among men and women in the society. It seeks to address issues of getting admission and control over resources and power. It additionally seeks to make sure that each man and woman take part of in and benefit similarly from development, and emphasize equality of advantage and management. They understand women being involved in development, however, they do not always gain from it. Additionally, the priority of GAD was not all about women solely. However, the way the gender relations allowed specific roles, responsibilities, and expectations among women and men. This approach can pay precise attention to oppression of women in the family or in the personal shaper of the women's lives. As a result, there are loads of projects that are developing addressing issues involved or violence against women. It's emphasized with the productive and productive role of women, and argues for state obligation to help the reproductive role played by women of caring and nurturing children. The treaty's development as a complex process that is influenced by political, social, financial factors rather than nation stage of improvement.
Okay, for another approach, which is efficient approach. The efficiency approach aims to have increased production and economic growth with emphasis on a full use of human resources. Okay. This approach succeeded in bringing the concern of every woman and gender development. Hence, they are focusing more on what women can do for development rather than on what development can do for a woman. The advocate of that is that gender evaluation makes right financial experience because the understanding of men's and women's roles and responsibilities as part of making plans and development activity will assist enhance the effectiveness and make sure that women, in addition to men, can play their part in countrywide improvement.
Feminist cause for gender equality were important in bringing about this approach, the main aim of which was to eliminate discrimination. It emphasized the revaluing of women's contribution and share. consists of both the productive and reproductive role of women, with an emphasis on satisfaction of basic needs and the productivity of women. The efficiency approach. The efficiency approach aims to have increased production and economic with an emphasis on full use of human approach is to increase the self-reliance of women and to influence change at the policy, linguistic, societal, economic, and other levels to their advantage. Gender and development. God looks at the impact of development on both women and men. It seeks to ensure that both women and men participate in and benefit equality.
So, everyone, let's talk about lesson 23. It's all about gender inequality in marriage and criminal laws. So, first, it's all about marriage. Article 1, the Family Code of the Philippines, that marriage is defined as a special contract of permanent union between a man and a woman, entered into in accordance with the law for the establishment conjugal and family life. And it is also the foundation of the family and an inviolable social intuition. It's also only for a man and woman cause reduction of homosexual relationship, as it only accommodates to heterosexual ones. So this means that marriage is a special contract or permanent union between a man and woman. And marriage is also a legally and socially sanctioned between a man and women by accordance of the rules of the laws. So the next one is the primacy of decision of the husband or father. It's Family Code, Article 14, Family Code of the Philippines. That it is provided that in case either or both of the contracting parties not having been emancipated by a previous marriage are between the ages of 18 and 21, they shall, in addition to the requirements that preceding article, exhibit to the local civil registrar the consent to their marriage of their father, mother, surviving parents or guardian, or persons having legal charge of them, in order to mention. So this means that both of the contracting parties are not have been emancipated, so their parents or guardians are the one who have legal charges of them or taking control of them. So the next one is Article 96 and 134 of the Family Code. It provided that the administration of enjoyment of community property shall belong to both spouses jointly. In case of disagreement, the husband's decision shall prevail, subject to recourse to the court by the wife for proper remedy, which must be available of within 5 years from the date of the contract implementing such decision. So this means that the administration and enjoyment of both property of spouses, and having a disagreement, the husband shall take the course of having the decision to prevail or to subject the wife for proper remedy. So the next article, 211 and 225, is all about the exercise of parental authority over the person and legal guardianship over the property of common children. It started that the father and mother shall jointly exercise parental authority over the persons of the common children. In case of disagreement, the father's decision shall prevail unless there is a judicial order to the contrary. So this means that both parents shall take the parental authority of their children. If they are having some issues or disagreement, the father's decision shall prevail unless there is a court or judge in order to the contrary. Higher burden on women wives than men husband. Crimes of adultery and concubinage include the concept of marital infidelity. Adultery involves a wife who engaged into sexual intercourse with a man not her husband. Concubinage involves a husband who has sexual intercourse with a woman not his wife under scandalous circumstances, kept another woman in the conjugal home, and cohabiting with another woman in order dwelling. So this slide refers to adultery and concubinage. This means that the husband has given sexual intercourse with a woman not his wife under a scandalous circumstances, and also through the wife having a scandalous intercourse with a man not his husband having a scandalous circumstances. The wife in adultery case incurs a higher penalty than for the erring husband in concubinage. A penalty of imprisonment is also impossible on paramount in adultery, but on the penalty of disterio or banishment falls on the concubine or concubinage. So this slide describes that the wife in an adultery case incurs a higher penalty than the husband in concubinage, and it is also having a penalty of imprisonment or impossible paramount in adultery. Next one is forgiveness clause in the crime or rape. RA 8353 on anti-rape law. It was stated that subsequent valid marriage between the offender and the offended party shall extinguish the criminal action of the penalty imposed. It is also recognized that if the offender is the legal husband, a subsequent forgiveness by the wife who is the offended party shall extinguish the criminal action or the penalty. Forgiveness clause in the crime, rape. This describes the subsequent valid marriage between the offender and the offended party shall extinguish the criminal actions of the penalty imposed. And when the offender of the legal husband, the subsequent forgiveness by the wife who is the offended party shall extinguish the criminal or the penalty.